Republican leader. I was a state central committee man and a ward committeeman in Chicago, and also President Reagan campaign manager. I go back to 1963 and forward to the Goldwater election. I don't know how many of you might remember that. Not too many, I don't think. But that was the start of the conservative movement. And I got involved in that campaign because I was just like you. I was, many of you in here, I never had done any political work, didn't know anything about it. My father-in-law, I told my father-in-law one day that I think that he should run for office because he was a great speaker. And he was in the union, and I saw him a few times. I saw him operate, and I thought he was really terrific. And he said to me, well, I'm going to send you to a friend of mine, and he'll take you to headquarters. And I'll be honest with you, at that time, my whole family was Democratic, and I guess I leaned towards the Democratic Party. But he took me to a Republican meeting. I walked in, and I was shocked. But I was so impressed because at this meeting, the committeeman came up to me, and he shook my hand, and he said, where do you live, young man? And I told him, and he looked up at the board, and he looked at the precincts, and he looked me over, and he said, where do you work? And I told him I work at Standard Oil Company in public relations. That's where I worked at the time. And he says, you're my precinct committeeman in the 63rd precinct. And I thought, wow, oh my God. I just loved it, you know. Wow, I was beside myself. He told the guy, he says, bring over the precinct poll list and the credentials and everything, and Phil Bianco's going into that precinct tomorrow. Who we got in there? He says, well, we got old man so-and-so in there. Well, he's no good. You're my commander. Here's your credentials. Man, I went out, and I tell you what, I was just a volunteer. I was a patriot, just like all of you. I had no knowledge of politics, no knowledge of the nuances of it, nothing. I just started to go door to door and talk to people. And I was just amazed. People just loved it. And what I learned was that people love organization in action. They love to see you come to their door and talk to them. They like to see people out on the street, going out, campaigning. It just motivates them. And when you do that, you bring them in. And the way to go about doing it really is get prepared just as these girls are instructing you to do. But always look presentable. I was always a big believer in going to the door looking presentable. Dress well. You don't have to be suit and tie like me. I'm a suit and tie guy who's been in a suit all my life. Ever since I was 17 years old, I started in corporate America with Standard Oil. And then I became a precinct committeeman, and then I became a state representative and a public official, and I just was in a suit all the time. So I'm as comfortable in this suit as some of you are in your sport clothes. But always look neat and presentable and present yourself, and always remember, you are important. You're an important person. You are going out and you're doing a work that is very crucial and very strong for our country. What you do out there is very important, especially now, because we are at a watershed. Just as Clara said, this election is a watershed election. We've got to win this election big. And there's no reason why people shouldn't vote for the Republican candidates this time, because they have got the issues on their side. There's no question in my mind about it. People are really concerned about what's going on here today. And as you go along, you should feel confident in that. And you should feel like you're really doing something for this country, because you are. You're dedicating yourself to a cause that's really going to change our country. So when you go out there with a confidence, with a feeling that you are important. Don't ever think you're more important than the voter is, but you are an important person because of what you're doing. But when you go, always try to go to a place where, if you're going door to door, try to go somewhere where you feel comfortable. Like if you know anybody in the area that you can start with, always start with them, because you'll be more comfortable as you go along. And start canvassing from a point of which you feel most comfortable, and try to know the families in the precinct. In other words, these walk sheets that the girls have now, when you look these over, can I see one of those? Does anybody have one of those? Stephanie, did you have one?
Yes, me too.
Let me see one of those. Now, I've been retired for about 8 years. So I used to use these walk sheets, but I haven't used one in a long time. I want to see what they look like. Because these walk sheets, they have the names and addresses of the people. So when you go to that door, you might know who's answering that door. Always introduce yourself to people when you go to that door. Try to stand back a little way. Don't get right on top of somebody. Stand back a little way, but as they open the door, shake their hand. Put your hand out and tell them who you are. I'm Phil Bianco. And always try to say that, yeah. Well, they haven't changed much. They tell you how people voted and everything. They're the same. They're just reversed from what I remember them. They used to be the long way. But you gotta try to be courteous to people when you talk to them. Don't ever argue with people. Don't ever get into any issues, discussing issues and argue with people if they disagree with you. Always be courteous and just be polite. But if people want to talk to you, talk to them. Discuss the issues with them. If they are volunteering to discuss this with you, don't try to force it on them. Because when you force things on people, you're going to aggravate them because you don't want to do that. You want to be friendly and you want to be courteous. So always leave them on a good note. But over the years, as I campaigned, I always would like to give people something. I know this sounds old-fashioned, but it's something I used to do. I remember one time I went out and got gum. And I passed it around to people as I went to the door. I gave them a package of gum. Because I remember Mr. Wrigley did that years ago before he got into when he was a soap salesman, and he found this new product gum, and he went out and he passed it out to people and to ingratiate himself at the door. You could use tactics like that if you have something like that to offer. You have a comfortable position with people. So I don't know how much more I can offer all of you, because these girls are fantastic in what they're doing, and they've learned a lot from what I've been talking to them over the last few weeks, and they've done a marvelous job. And I just want to say to you that you people are all patriots, and what you're doing is going to be very important for this election. So thank you very much.